On the 6th day of Jaysmas, I reviewed RE4 in space.
Dead Space. Well, you heard it in the opening song. It's Resident Evil 4 in space. I mean, come on. Okay, so there may be a little bit more to it than that, but RE4 in space is a pretty accurate way to describe it. Even the devs wouldn't argue with you there, as one of the lead designers of the game has admitted that he drew a lot of inspiration from Capcom's 2005 survival action horror Tour de Force. For some reason, Dead Space never really grabbed my attention back when it first came out, though the fact I didn't have the means to play it at the time probably didn't help. However, when I heard that the game had a lot of similarities to RE4, one of my favorite games, it piqued my interest. I wouldn't say that I hate shooting games, but it's definitely a crapshoot on if one is going to click with me or not. Even then, I could admit that I'm not always the best at them. But with Dead Space, a game that certainly doesn't hesitate to throw you right into the fire, things clicked almost immediately. And yes, it's most likely due to the RE4 connection. That being said, it's not like Dead Space is merely a clone of another classic game, far from it. It does a great job introducing plenty of elements that makes it feel like its own unique creation. First thing that comes to mind is the combat system. Sure, the aiming and laser sight is extremely RE4, but just look at the weapons you're using. A plasma cutter that lets you cut at a horizontal or vertical angle at will. The Ripper, which lets you swing around a tethered saw blade to carve up enemies with continuous damage, and the powerful Contact Beam, which can be charged up to fire large kinetic blasts or even a ground-based AoE. We got a lot of stuff going on here. The environment and the story is very similar to Alien, taking place on a deserted spaceship that's being ravaged by grotesque and bloodthirsty mutants known as necromorphs, unrelated to xenomorphs. These creatures come in all sorts of disgusting varieties, all with their own special ways of trying to kill you. You got humanoid ones, tiny parasitic ones, enormous hulking ones, and these jerks who look pretty defenseless at first, but believe me, they could be a pain to deal with. The general approach to fighting these enemies may not be exactly what you'd expect. In most shooting games, what do you aim for? The head, right? Well, we don't do that here. Necromorphs generally have one weakness, and it's to dismember them. That means you'll be targeting those limbs first and foremost. Ah, now the design of that plasma cutter makes sense, right? Oh, and it works beautifully. Gotta be my favorite weapon in the game, and luckily it's your default one. All the other weapons and their various upgrades must be purchased in these virtual stores you occasionally run into. Aside from that, you're also equipped with the status module that lets you slow down enemies and certain objects, and these gravity boots that allow you to stick to walls and ceilings in special zero-G rooms, some of which require you to navigate quickly as your suit only has so much oxygen available. Speaking of the suit, notice anything on the back? It's your health bar. How sick is that? I don't think I've ever seen a more clever way to implement a UI into the visuals of the game itself. One thing I couldn't possibly go without mentioning is the navigation laser, that beautiful guiding light. A recurring problem I have in games that have larger areas to explore with multiple rooms is I often find myself getting lost. Well, sometimes I just miss instructions or forget where I'm going, or I can't remember where I've already been. Basically, I get lost easily. In Dead Space, however, it's just one simple button press and a magnificent guiding laser shoots forth and shows you the exact path to your destination. This was like a fantasy come true for me. Now, I'm not saying every game needs something like this, but man, I loved it here, and it really helped me get through my playthrough without wasting a bunch of time wandering around because I didn't know where to go next. If there was one thing I could say was maybe a little disappointing about this game, it's the lack of bosses. There's big enemies, sure, but only a few proper big bosses in the entire game. Not a deal breaker or anything, and the bosses you do fight are actually pretty intense and engaging. It just would have been nice to have more. Before I wrap up, I feel like I should talk about Dead Space 2, since I also played that one. It was more Dead Space, which is a good thing, but not exactly a great thing? I don't know. While the first Dead Space to me was this exciting, groundbreaking thing that was really awesome to experience for the first time, Dead Space 2 didn't exactly feel like a big leap forward from that. It wasn't worse by any means, and they certainly did have some new additions, but overall, it just felt like more of the same. I hope that's not too controversial of an opinion. Oh, also, games. Please give me the option to have DLC items turned off. I don't want a million OP guns for free in my first playthrough. I had to be careful not to touch any of these things so I didn't feel like I was cheating. Well, who knows, with the remake of the first Dead Space coming sometime in the future, maybe I'll be able to recapture that exciting experience I had playing the original. Or maybe they'll ruin it.